"Do I know you? Are you a friend of my husband from his middle school days?" I asked, eyeing the stranger warily. "I'm sorry, but you need to leave right now," I insisted, my voice firm and resolute. "I'm Jackson," the man introduced himself, seemingly unaffected by my demand. "I'm 33 and currently single. Today marked the wedding day of my colleague Lucas, who also happened to be a close friend." As I mingled with guests, a man who claimed to be a relative of Bryce, the groom, approached me and ushered me towards a waiting area just before the ceremony. Physically imposing and with a firm grip, the man guided me forcefully with his strong arms, leaving me feeling uneasy about his intentions. Thinking that perhaps the bride wanted to extend a pre-ceremony greeting, I followed the relative, assuming goodwill. Initially, I admired her apparent courtesy, but that admiration swiftly soured. It became evident that my presence was not welcomed for congenial purposes, but rather as a means of coercion. The bride, waiting in the anteroom, wore a malevolent expression that sent a shiver down my spine. Momentarily taken aback, I managed to compose myself and offered my congratulations. "Congratulations on your wedding," I said, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. Her response was abrupt and commanding. "You need to leave immediately," she ordered, leaving no room for argument. "What?" I blurted out in disbelief, unable to contain my reaction to the bride's statement. Her response to my question was exasperatingly patronizing. "This is precisely why dealing with uneducated individuals is such a hassle," she muttered under her breath, the disdain evident in her tone. It was clear that the bride harbored disdain for my educational background, or rather, the lack thereof. She didn't mince her words as she elaborated. "Allow me to clarify. My husband and I hail from esteemed lineage, and today's guests belong to the elite echelons of society. Your presence as a mere high school graduate is jarring and distasteful to me." The implications were not lost on me. My educational background had become a source of embarrassment in their esteemed circles. Naturally, I was aware of Lucas' prestigious background and the disdain some harbor towards those without extensive academic credentials. It wasn't a new experience for me. I'd encountered similar attitudes before. Despite this, my bond with Lucas transcended such superficial judgments, prompting me to attend his wedding. My sole intention was to partake in the joyous occasion and celebrate my friend's union. However, the bride's blatant disdain towards me, a guest she deemed unworthy, cast a shadow over the festivities. Feeling increasingly uncomfortable, I inquired if I could offer Lucas a few words of congratulation before taking my leave. The reaction from the bride and her relatives was immediate and explosive. Feeling overwhelmed by the tension and animosity, I couldn't help but mutter, "This is all a bit too much for me." Confused by their laughter in what seemed like a serious moment, I dared to inquire about the reason behind their amusement. The bride's response stunned me beyond belief. "My husband didn't invite you here out of friendship, but rather out of pity," she declared matter-of-factly. As she continued, the pieces of an unexpected puzzle started to fall into place. Despite my bewilderment, she proceeded, delving into the depths of my troubled past, one marked by parental abandonment and a childhood spent in the confines of an orphanage. She went on to explain how my struggles with malnutrition had left a lasting impact, evident in my tall yet slender frame even into adulthood. The revelation left me speechless, realizing that Lucas's invitation to his wedding was not an act of camaraderie, but rather an expression of empathy towards a former classmate enduring ongoing hardship. The bride jumped to a startling conclusion, assuming Lucas's invitation was an attempt to provide me with a meal at the wedding. I tried to reason with her, explaining the impossibility of such a scenario, but my protest fell on deaf ears. In a tone laced with disdain, she proceeded to belittle my worth, emphasizing the stark disparity between Lucas's accomplishments and mine. According to her, Lucas's compassion could potentially elevate his status, but she couldn't fathom allowing someone with only a middle school education to attend her wedding. She highlighted Lucas's prestigious academic background and successful career, contrasting it sharply with my own humble position as a janitor or security guard in the same company. The bride's words stung with contempt as she dismissed any notion of Lucas feeling sorry for me simply because we were former classmates. To her, the idea was preposterous, bordering on outrageous. We're both employed by the same company, one that's recently entered the public domain and shows considerable promise. It's a sought-after workplace, topping the charts for job seekers. Our company policy prioritizes talent acquisition, meaning individuals deemed valuable can join regardless of academic background. Despite the company's prestige, I acknowledge the disparity between a junior high school graduate like myself and a college-educated colleague. Yet, regardless of the motives behind Lucas's invitation, I simply wish to extend my congratulations. I harbored no expectations in return. However, earnestly articulate my sentiments and plead my case, the bride remains resolutely unyielding. Her gaze is consistently cold, as though regarding something unsavory. It's as if she's reluctant to even share the same airspace with me. She dismisses my heartfelt expressions of friendship with disdainful indifference. Are you trying to cozy up to my husband and snag a job with just a junior high school diploma? Her words were just a rejection of my presence at their wedding. They hinted at potential repercussions in the workplace. Caught off guard, I struggled to find a response. Despite the company's acceptance of individuals with minimal education, I couldn't bring myself to accept such condescension, especially from the spouse of my colleague. Suddenly, a male relative's actions escalated the tension further. Ignoring my protests, he forcibly grabbed at me, his actions invasive and aggressive. Attempting to fend him off, I reached for his arm, but he forcefully pushed me against the wall. A sharp pain shot through my back and chest, eliciting a low, guttural growl of pain. Enough, just leave, the relative barked before completing its sentence, abruptly opening the door to the waiting room. I was unceremoniously ejected, landing on the floor with a resounding thud. Despite the rough treatment, I resolved to carry on without offering my congratulations to Lucas. Preferring not to risk being barred from the wedding altogether, I sought refuge in a nearby cafe, biding my time before rejoining the festivities with the other guests. As the wedding reception commenced, I settled into my seat, hoping to blend in unnoticed. However, the bride's penetrating gaze soon found me. Without uttering a word, her lips moved silently, forming a single question directed at me. What are you doing here? The bride's expression shifted as the relative man spotted me. With determination, he lunged towards me, seizing my arm in an attempt to forcibly remove me. However, this time, I wasn't going to be ejected so easily. Nearby attendees sprang to action, rallying around me, shielding me from the relative's grasp. Panic flashed across the relative's face as he struggled to comprehend the situation. Sensing the urgency, the bride seemed equally flustered. Seizing the moment, I grabbed hold of a nearby microphone and addressed the bride, who remained bewildered by the unfolding events. Bride, I owe you an apology for my earlier words. My desire to witness Lucas's wedding led me here today, I declared loudly, ensuring my message reached her despite the chaos surrounding us. Lucas, seated at the head table, overheard our exchange and interjected with confusion and concern. What's happening here? What's all this about? He demanded. The bride, visibly shaken by Lucas's unexpected intrusion, responded in a tremulous voice, It's nothing, just go back to your seat, Lucas. With a hint of desperation, she added, I asked Jackson to leave because he only has a junior high school education. It wouldn't be a good match for us, Lucas. Feeling a sense of resignation, I addressed the bride, who appeared lost in her own distress. I apologize for any inconvenience I've caused. If it's what you desire, I'll sever all professional ties with Lucas. Please forgive me for any disruption I've caused. A hush descended over the entire hall as my declaration hung in the air. The bride was the first to break the silence. What? Fired? What's going on? Lucas's voice quivered with confusion. What did you just say? Recognition dawned on Jackson's face as he processed my words. That's correct. I am Jackson, the president of our company, I affirmed, my tone steady. I may have only graduated from junior high school, but I founded a delivery company at the age of 16. With nothing but a bicycle, I transformed it into a major corporation over the span of a decade. And in response to changing consumer habits, we swiftly transitioned into a publicly traded entity. Lucas wasn't just a friend to me, he was a lifeline, a source of unwavering support when I needed it most. He shared his meals with me, showing kindness and compassion during times when I struggled with malnutrition. Raised in an orphanage until the age of 15, I lacked the familial stability that Lucas enjoyed from the age of 12, when he was adopted by his current parents. Despite our different upbringings, Lucas and I remained close even after our paths diverged geographically. When we embarked on the journey of entrepreneurship together, Lucas vowed to dedicate himself to our shared vision. Witnessing his transformation from a shy individual to a confident groom filled me with immense joy. My determination to congratulate Lucas stemmed from a deep-rooted friendship and gratitude. I remained steadfast even in the face of the bride's objections. Unbeknownst to me, the bride's disdain stemmed from my educational background, yet I was unaware that being a junior high school graduate didn't preclude me from holding a significant position within our company. The authority to terminate employees rested with me, a fact that the bride herself had acknowledged when she requested I sever ties with Lucas. I gently assured her that I had complied with her wishes. In response, she uttered a cold remark, confirming Lucas's termination. The bride, previously frozen in shock, muttered disdainfully, "Fired? If you're such a failure, I have no use for you." Without hesitation, she renounced the marriage entirely, citing my lack of elite status and high income as deal breakers. It was a startling turn of events as she promptly called off the engagement with Lucas, who had just been dismissed from his job. The attendees erupted in uproar at her abrupt declaration. Amidst the chaos, any semblance of our previously amicable relationship vanished. Accusations flew as she labeled the situation a marriage scam, demanding compensation from Lucas for the broken engagement. Lucas's revulsion was palpable in the midst of the chaos. Quietly, I reached out and tapped the bride on the shoulder as she continued to raise her voice. Leaning in, I whispered, "You might want to start saving that for alimony payments." With that, I initiated a video playback on the projector, revealing footage captured by a phone I had strategically left recording in the bride's waiting room. The recording, inadvertently triggered when a male relative manhandled me, potentially held crucial evidence of my injury. As I was pushed against the wall, the phone fell, continuing to record. What it captured was damning. The bride's indiscretion with the same male relative in the waiting room. As the ceremony commenced, I retraced my steps to the waiting room in search of the phone I suspected I had dropped. To my relief, I discovered it nestled in a corner, untouched. However, the shock of what I witnessed upon playing back the recording left me reeling. Witnessing such deceitful behavior on what should have been a sacred occasion shook me to the core. It was difficult to comprehend how anyone could stoop to such lows. Driven by a sense of moral obligation, I immediately sought out Lucas to disclose the damning evidence. The revelation of the bride's true nature sparked a fiery reaction from Lucas's relatives, who unleashed their fury upon the bride's family. In response, the bride's relatives vehemently denied any association with the man implicated in the recording. They adamantly refused to acknowledge any connection to him. It later emerged that the man accompanying the bride was nothing more than an unfaithful partner. Despite his charming demeanor, he was essentially a freeloader, lacking any meaningful employment. The bride, yearning for a life of prestige and sophistication within an educated family, sought to elevate her status by securing a marriage with Lucas, a gentle and unassuming man. Her intentions were revealed to be far from genuine, painting her in a negative light. In contrast, Lucas, dedicated to his studies and somewhat naive in matters of love, possessed a trusting nature that left him vulnerable to manipulation. Ultimately, I'm grateful that my humble education allowed me to see through the deceitful intentions of those involved. Never did I anticipate that my educational background would prove valuable in such a manner. The deceitful bride faced the consequences of her actions, being ordered to pay a hefty sum of $5 million for wedding expenses and an additional $3 million for terminating the engagement, accumulating the staggering debt of $8 million. As a result of the humiliation she endured, she found herself isolated from her family. Her unfaithful partner, alarmed by the overwhelming debt, fled the scene, leaving her to face the repercussions alone. With her once inviolable life now in shambles, the bride was forced into a solitary existence, residing in a rundown apartment and toiling tirelessly day and night in a desperate attempt to repay her debts. The arrival of the deceitful woman inadvertently strengthened the bond between Lucas and me, fostering a deeper friendship as we navigated through the ordeal. Meanwhile, our company experienced a period of rapid and steady growth. Observing Lucas's enduring desire for marriage, I contemplated accompanying him to a matchmaking event in the future.